Oral questions. The Honourable Member for Leeds Granville, Thousand Islands.
This NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime's up, and time's up for this Prime Minister and his de facto Finance Minister, Carbon Tax Carney. Since taking on the role, the friends and business interests of Carbon Tax Carney have benefited with billions of tax dollars, $2 billion for his buddy at Telesat, and Brookfield getting a seat at the table to get their hands on 10 billion Canadian tax dollars. Suddenly, Carbon Tax Carney is raising funds for these Liberals in exchange for all of those billions. So will they cooperate with an investigation from Canada's lobbying commissioner?
The Honourable Minister of Flavors.
Well, Madam Speaker, the Death Valley well driller is poking more dry holes. Outstanding Canadians stepping up to advise the Liberal Party or any party is a very good thing. But what this member wants to cloud is the fact that, Madam Speaker, inflation's down, interest rates are down, wage settlements are up. The economy is up. We've reached a soft landing in this country. They should stop talking the country down. We're going to continue lifting the country up, Madam Speaker.
For Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Like all Canadians, I wish that every time we looked for a scandal, it wasn't just surface deep, like the Public Safety Minister found guilty of breaking the law, the Prime Minister broke the law, the Trade Minister broke the law. These guys can't help themselves, and now he wants to tell us that Canadians have never had it so good, and that's why they have Carbon Tax Carney, who's lining the pockets of his friends and himself, all so that he'll raise a little cash for a dying Liberal Party. Canadians have had absolutely enough after 9 years of their corruption and grift, so why won't the Prime Minister subject his new de facto Finance Minister to the conflict of interest regime? Is he worried that he's going to be found guilty of breaking the law too?
Honourable Minister of Flavor.
Madam Speaker, the predictions of impending doom coming from that member in particular and his political party really sound discordant to Canadians. What is happening across this country, Madam Speaker, is that after the pandemic, we've achieved that rare feat, a soft landing, no recession, wage gains, inflation coming down, interest rates coming down in this country. The Finance Minister this very week putting in place measures that will make young people more able to purchase a home. Madam Speaker, these are things that you do when you...
Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
Let's talk about what they've achieved. Record lineups at food banks with 25% of Canadians not knowing where their next meal is coming from, not able to heat their homes. A third of food bank users being children. They are starving and freezing in the dark after 9 years of this NDP Liberal government and their carbon tax on everything that's being boosted by Carbon Tax Carney, who's only doing it, of course, to raise his stock portfolio, which we saw with Brookfield stocks hitting 6 months high in exchange for policies from this government and for him fundraising for them. Canadians are broke. These Liberals broke them. Let's have a carbon tax election.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Well, Madam Speaker, Canadians know where this government stands. We've offered immediate and direct support to families, especially when they needed it most. We've delivered household savings and significantly strengthened our social safety net. And we've promoted fairer practices, greater competition across our industries. Notice, Madam Speaker, real solutions and zero slogans from this side. Well, I guess that's just the Liberal government for you.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins, Lévis. 9 years ago, this government promised us the world. Instead, we inherited a Canada that is failing seniors, families, and young people. This government has squandered the money Canadians entrusted to it. This government has created massive inflation. Rent has doubled, and homelessness now affects everyone, including young students and grandmas who can no longer make ends meet. Can this Prime Minister, the government, do the only honourable thing left and call an election? Honourable Minister. Madam Speaker, what Canadians truly fear is the hidden agenda of the Conservative Party. What would that member cut? She would cut food banks. She would cut support for housing. And we know full well that that party would cut tens of thousands of public service positions in Canada. I think it's time for this member and this party to make public their secret hidden plan, which would be bad for Canada. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins, Lévis. Well, the fact is that Canada has fallen behind our trade partner and neighbor, the United States, in terms of economic growth and productivity, Madam Speaker, but that's not all. The OECD predicts that Canada's economic growth will be the worst of all OECD member countries over the next 3 decades. Canadians want to get control back over their own lives. The only way to do that is for an election to be called to get a Conservative government. Does the Prime Minister have the courage to dissolve the House? The Honourable Minister. Madam Speaker, when there is an election, that member will have to stop making false claims. She will have to publish the Conservative Party's secret hidden plan for cuts, for austerity, for removing support for our seniors, for housing, for municipalities, for infrastructure, and I could go on and on about what they would cut. Madam Speaker, our economy is strong, interest rates are down, the inflation is down, and Madam Speaker, we avoided a recession. We have a lot to accomplish, but we're working on it.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Breaking news. The RCMP Commissioner confirmed that the Prime Minister's hand-picked directors to the Green Slush Fund are under criminal investigation. So what we have now is the Liberals not only defying an order of this House to produce the documents and turn them over to the RCMP, Liberals are now obstructing justice by refusing to cooperate with the RCMP investigation. 9 Green Slush Fund appointees have been implicated in funneling $400 million to their own companies. Are Liberals obstructing justice so their cronies can avoid jail?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. And I am disappointed in the Conservative Party's approach, and I'm not alone. If you take a look in terms of what it is that the Auditor General of Canada is saying and the RCMP is saying in regards to the Conservative tactic, and people should really note this, they are extremely uncomfortable. You have caused a great deal of discomfort to those independent offices because of your behavior here on the floor of the House of Commons.
The Honourable Member to speak through the chair. I hope I haven't caused anything to anyone. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would suggest to you that the Conservative Party needs to be more sensitive and listen to what the RCMP...
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
This House is listening to the RCMP when the RCMP Commissioner said yesterday that he's investigating the corruption at the Green Slush Fund. You know, they use as an excuse the Charter. The Charter does not exist to protect Liberals and prevent and create obstruction of justice opportunities. As Liberals cling to dear life to the secret documents, they obstruct justice. Hundreds of millions of dollars have already been funneled to Liberal cronies. What's the true number? Is it billions? Is it $2 billion? Will the Liberal who is obstructing justice and knows the true amount of the
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, instead of the Conservative Party playing games at a great expense to Canadians, solely focused on their party fortunes and anything else, as opposed to trying to do filibusters on the floor of the House of Commons, why don't they listen? Listen to what the RCMP, listen to what the Auditor General is saying, Madam Speaker. And what they are saying is this Conservative tactic causes great concern, and it's justified as the Conservatives are trying to blur the whole issue of judicial independence. Shame on them.
The Honourable